Hi ENFP, the name is Eric Dorn. Today we're talking about stress management for ENFPs. What can you do as an ENFP to minimize stress and to avoid negative things that will suck your energy dry and keep you from feeling motivated and to feel confident in yourself, right? And so we're talking about the main stressors of the ENFP and how you can effectively manage these things. Now, the core things that tend to stress the ENFP out is tasks that require attention to detail, tasks that require organization, linearity, and a step-by-step approach, tasks that require micromanagement on a detail level, right? We're seeing a pattern here. And tasks that require logical thinking, analysis of pros and cons, and enforcement of rules and structure and some form of logical process or some kind of set of laws or rules or principles, right? Because ENFPs tend to find it very tough to follow rules and to consistently set themselves to follow rules. And ENFPs tend to find it difficult to engage in processes that require heavy amounts of critical thinking and personal analytical self-reflection. These things can make the ENFP feel a bit defeated because you have this idealism and then you have this critical thinking process that's telling you it's not going to work. Like these kind of things can be major upsets for the ENFP personality type, right? And so what can you do as an ENFP to manage these things? Well, Carl Jung thought that we need to learn to integrate our opposites, right? And that means we can't avoid these things. And so the answer is not to throw them out of the window and to just not care about them, right? And if it was that easy, fantastic, you'd have done it a long time ago, right? But the thing is, these are things that you can recognize as objectively valuable, things that you do want, and also things that continue to be important in your life, right? And so what are ways to effectively manage these things? And strategy number one is simplification, right? A lot of the time, the answer is to minimize these things, to not get rid of them, but to minimize them by keeping things simple. If you struggle with clutter and disorganization and things out of the place, make sure that you don't have too much stuff at home, because having too much stuff at home is going to lead to a lot of clutter. And also recognizing things that are going to cause a mess, things that are going to cause you to have to spend a lot of time cleaning and organizing and putting things together, right? Secondly, I think it's very important to keep plans simple, right? Because when you start over planning something like a trip or hanging out with a friend or things like that, I think ENFPs can very quickly start getting demotivated, right? So if you need to plan out every single step of the journey, that's probably not going to be a good idea. And so as an ENFP, what can you do in order to make sure that that doesn't happen? Well, one thing you could do is you can plan in for some slack, because if you plan in for some slack, and you're going to need to have less detail-oriented plans, right? And what do I mean with slack? Well, slack means that, when you plan in for meeting up with a friend and you know that, they want to meet up at 1 o'clock, you say 1:15, because that means that you have 15 extra minutes after you finished your previous thing, to get there, even if the tram's late and even if you didn't look up exactly when the train was leaving and, all those things, right? Slack is in general a good approach to just remembering that, well, I don't want to plan out exactly what restaurant to go to or what to do in that city, but when I'm in that city, I got this general list of some areas that I could go to, and these kind of things help me ensure that, while I can keep options open and I don't overplan, I always do have a backup, and I always have, room to improvise and to, make some mistakes and to mess things up a little bit. The third thing that I'm a big fan of is grounded idealism, right? And okay, many people assume that big idealistic dreams have to be like these huge life-changing experiences, right? When idealism can be a lot more grounded than what we think. Idealism doesn't have to be, traveling around the entire world, because such a thing can be logically impossible for a lot of people, depending on your economy, your budget, and your current duties and responsibilities and external obligations, right? But grounded idealism is idealism that you can apply in any situation. What can you do to make every day feel like you're traveling around the world? What can you do in order to make, everyday routines and chores more imaginative, more fun, more playful, more creative, more educational, more interesting for you as an ENFP? Because If you can do these things, well, first of all, what you learn to do is you learn to apply the ENFP idealism to everyday tasks, like things that you do at work, or what you do in your hometown or in your local city, or with your current group of friends, right? And so as an ENFP, what you want to think about is not just these big ideas that you can do on the other side of the planet, but the big ideas that you can start doing right here, right now, right? Because there are so many things that you could do to change your life right today by just making a small change somewhere in your room, or by simply making a new friend, or going to a new place, or looking up a new group or community, or, just being able to look at things from a new perspective. A practical example of that is being a tourist in your own hometown. Pretend that you're a tourist in your own hometown and think about what places you haven't visited yet, what things you haven't seen yet, what things you haven't done yet. And find, things nearby in close cities and things like that would keep your inspiration up and would keep you energized and help you stave off the feeling like, oh, every day is a boring routine of same old, and I'm stuck and, I'm not getting anywhere, right? Tip number 4 is to try to move from rules to guidelines, right? So imagine you want to go on a diet and you really want to lose weight, right? But a lot of the time, the smart strategy here is not to go crazy about all the rules and all the things you can't eat at that time and do at this time and do at that time, right? The better thing to look at and to employ is a strategy called nudging. Nudging means that you find ways to make and transform and create loose changes in the rules and in guidelines so that you're nudged into doing the right decision in different times, right? Because how can you nudge and inspire yourself to want to eat healthier breakfasts? What can you do to avoid the temptation of getting fast food when you're out? What can you do to make sure that you don't snack in the evening? Because there's a million of strategies and tricks and hacks that you can use as an ENFP. If you get creative, and if you use your intuition, you can think of all these ways to nudge and subtly influence yourself to make better decisions, right? And the same strategy you can use to many different things. And if you're struggling with something at work, in a task, or something your manager wants you to do that requires a lot of rules and processes and things that are very difficult for you, find ways to make it more fun for you by employing strategies like gamification, or ways to turn it more fun, or ways to make it more engaging for you. Those are my tips for stress management for the ENFP personality type. I hope they helped you in maybe feeling a little bit lighter. And yeah, I hope that your journey to less stress will be a little bit more fun. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.